A kitchen quick tip, bread flour. I bake a lot of bread. I love bread flour. Now I have had in the past many times I've baked with all-purpose flour. I don't like the consistency. It's doable, but I don't prefer all-purpose flour when I'm making my breads. It is doable though, it's just a little bit harder of a texture. So I use bread flour a lot, but here you're not going to find it on the shelf very often. When you do find it on the shelf, it's going to be the most expensive flour that you can buy. So I played around with it for a couple years, and I decided to see what would happen if I mixed the bread flour with the all-purpose. Now, when I put 3/4 of all-purpose flour in with 1/4 of the amount of bread flour, it still came out more on the side of using all-purpose flour. So I played around with it again, and I realized the ratio was 50-50. When I use 50-50, 50% bread flour, 50% all-purpose, I mix those two together, and you cannot even tell that there is an all-purpose flour in there. It all tastes like bread flour. So that's what I do to make my bread flour stretch, because it is very expensive. So the first thing I do is I get my 50-50. This is a 2.5 kilogram bag, which is about 16 cups of flour. So I have about 16 cups of all-purpose flour. So what I do to make it simpler on myself is layer it. So that it just a less time in the end for me to stir it. So I go ahead and put in my all-purpose flour, and this is when the whole kitchen gets white, but that's okay because we're in the kitchen and we love that. Anything to do with the kitchen, it's all fine. Then we put in half the bag of bread flour. And you can stir it around. Now when you're done with all this, when you go to bake, you can absolutely sift your flour before you bake bread or whatever you're going to make. You know, that's optional, that's up to you if you want a finer consistency. Then I take the rest of the all-purpose and I dump it in here. This is another 8 cups. This is a 1.9 liter jar which holds 8 cups, approximately 8 cups of flour. And then I go ahead and do the bread flour. In it goes. Get rid of this. And mix it up a bit. That's it. I will not be able to tell that there is an all-purpose flour in my bread flour at this point when I go to make bread. And I keep it in a jar like this because it's really handy for me. So I keep this in the kitchen. And that's all you have to do. Just stir it up. It's easier when you layer it. Just stir it up. Put your lid on it. And you will have your bread flour that's been stretched, so you don't have to spend a fortune on just bread flour. Till next time, hey dough.